Smithfield Planning Commission to order. If you all would join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get rolling, I want to recognize our newest member. She's not new to Planning Commission, but she's back with us, Ms. Gigi Smith. She's a very valued member, and I can't wait. She will hit the ground running, I know. Welcome, Gigi.
Thank you.
Just a couple procedure reminders this evening seem to trip people up. We do have a sign-up sheet for public comments in general, and then we have 2 public hearings. So if you want to speak to those items specifically, please sign up for those individual public hearing items. With that, Ms. Clary, do you have a director's report?
Yes, thank you. Staff is currently working on updating Article 10 for the signage. This was discussed as our staff report last month, and we did decide to postpone it for a discussion for this evening. Right now, the Planning Commission, specifically for entrance corridor overlay review, they only look at signage above if it exceeds 150 square feet in size. It does allow for administrative approval at the staff level for all signage that is 150 square feet or less, and we did want to bring that to Planning Commission's attention while we're going through the update to Article 10 signs, just to make sure that the Planning Commissioners still desire that. We did include it as a discussion item for number 10 this evening.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings and activities on Tuesday the 20th, we have Board of Historic and Architectural Review meeting. Same spot here as at 6:30. Board of Zoning Appeals meeting that same night has been canceled. Tuesday, February 26th, Town Council Committee meetings. And Tuesday, March 5th is Town Council meeting, also at 6:30. And then our next Planning Commission meeting is Tuesday, March 12th, again at 6:30. At this time, we'll take any general public comments. Do we have anyone signed up? No one has signed up. Anybody have a burning desire to say anything now? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward. Item number 4, Planning Commission comments.
Any updates on the Liberty Church application and where we are with that? It seems like it's been away for a long time since we gave them amendment.
We're waiting on some wetland issues. Everybody's waiting on the Army Corps of Engineers nowadays, and I think they're doing the same thing.
They're currently under site plan review. We have received various site plans. They just have not addressed all of our comments at this time.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Mr. Brown.
Chairman, really good. During the town council's meeting, they recognized Mr. Swecker for his service to the Planning Commission, and I don't think the Planning Commission acknowledged that. And I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to Mr. Swecker for his service to the commission, the town, and the citizens.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay. And additionally, I still have some concerns about what we considered at our last meeting concerning the revisions to the zoning ordinance, the AR zoning ordinance. If I may, from the AR zoning, it was for medium density. That was the intent of it. Attached residential development in Smithfield. The average density was intended to be anywhere from 6 to 8 units per acre. It was established, this district, as one recognizing townhouse-style units as a dominant land use, as well as infill parcels. They could be used for infill. Small lots anywhere in town that's undeveloped, of course. And I'm still looking at Section C, number 1, and I don't think it was adequately addressed during our consideration the last months. The single-family detached residence, subject to the SR district regulations, suburban residential, provided that such residents do not comprise more than 25% of the total planned residential units depicted on the general development plan. And from my understanding, what we passed was something that will allow 100% coverage per that application. Now, cottages at Battery, speaking in particular about that application, the proposed text amendment would allow the applicant to apply for a special use permit to allow their proposed development. They would still be required to rezone the property, request a change to the future land use map, and they would require additional special use permits and waivers. Now, staff identified one of the special use permits was to exceed a maximum density that came out to 9.3 units per acre. And this was above what the AR zoning allowed, 8 units per acre. And just following a trend, on the Grange, there was a request for 7.9 units overall per acre. On Mallory Point, which was approved earlier, there were 3.89 units per acre within the AR zone. Now, there's also a special use permit for smaller lot widths. There's a waiver for open space non-contiguous. Now, looking at the trend, 3.89 per acre for Mallory, 7.9 for Grange, and now we're going to 9.3 for this cottage on Battery. It seems like we're going in the wrong direction. I mean, everyone in the town is concerned about density. Now, with this new text revision to the AR zoning ordinance, Attorney Riddick can probably answer this question, but my question is, can previously approved developments come back and apply for a revised site plan to take advantage of this new SUP waiver allowances? And if so, considering what has been approved and any number of undeveloped lots within the town, that text change exponentially increases the town's density. That's the way I see the result of that revision. Now, though we work to protect the town and residents, we appear more inclined to accommodate developers as opposed to the town's character, its citizens, its safety and well-being, etc. We were made aware of the dire possibility of being over capacity in our schools by the report given by Mrs. Briggs of the Alawite County School System. And I know that's debatable. There's another report that was mentioned during the town council meetings. Now, we're all well aware of the pressure on our roads, police and fire services, etc. Yet I see no evidence by our actions of us adjusting our path forward to protect the town's character. We want to be known as small town of America, Smithfield, that character. The direction I see we're taking with the revisions to the zoning ordinance, I don't see how both are compatible. I just don't see it. And back to the question, those developments previously approved, and I see this happening at Cypress Creek. They're coming back asking for revisions to the original site plan that was done in the 90s, I believe. And Mallory Point, the Grange, any other development that's approved, can they come back and take advantage of these new allowances by the revisions that was approved?
Well, you just made a change to the attached residential section. So hypothetically, if any of those developments had AR components in them and they wanted to come back and make an application for, any property owner can make an application. The most important thing is, Mr. Bryan, you don't have to approve it. Just because you can make an application doesn't mean that the planning commission is going to approve it, nor would the town council approve it. It's, I think everybody described it as another tool in the toolbox. Well, okay, it permits an applicant to make an application under these provisions and ask for all those special use permits that you discussed, but it doesn't mean that you have to approve anything at the density that you're worried about. That's your job. You decide whether, if you think 9 units per acre is too much, then don't approve 9 units per acre. If somebody comes in with a proposal and you really like what they do, and it is 9 units per acre, then maybe you approve it. But if they come in and it exceeds what you think is appropriate for the town of Smithfield, you don't approve it. That's your job. It's that simple. The fact that you can doesn't mean that you have to.
It was my position that we shouldn't have approved it,
Well, okay, that's fine, but that
because
doesn't-
it's a slippery slope.
Well, that
I
ship
still
is-
But that
believe,
decision's
I
been
still
made,
believe
Mr.
it's a
Bryan,
slippery
if I may,
slope.
Point of order, please. That position has been made. We did that so that the applicant could actually apply, and we would consider it at that time, but that decision has already been made.
Understood.
Are there any other comments from any other commissioners?
I think citizens should be aware of what our view going forward is for the future of this town. How do we see it? How do we address these? And we're just making decisions, but real explanations to the citizens of the town, why are we doing it? I haven't seen that.
Appreciate your comments. Any other commissioners wish to comment on anything?
Mr. Bryan, are you, and I am just catching up here, but are you speaking to the cottages that are behind?
Yes.
Okay.
Royal Farm, yes.
Okay, so the density was going to actually be, in my understanding, it was going to be 150 units.
Correct.
But they came back with a proposal for 130 units. So they actually wanted less, and that's what was approved.
I understand that. I understand that.
Okay.
Correct.
But in our,
But they haven't even made the application.
Correct.
Right.
This was just a
Yeah.
text amendment to allow flexibility within our AR zoning to say, yes, we would entertain some type of alternative design than the way our ordinance was written. Our ordinance was written as, we want a building, however many attached units with green space around it and so much free space. And that was very restrictive. They just said, look, we've got an alternative development. They couldn't even present it to us unless we gave them a text amendment to allow them to present an alternative plan. All we said is, yep, we're gonna allow you to present us an alternative plan, give it to us, we'll look at it, but it hasn't been submitted, nor has it even, the right density hasn't even been set up yet, because they haven't run through all their models. This was just a concept that they wished to present, is all they wanted to say, this is our idea. We don't know how open you are to it, but we want to present this concept and get a text amendment changed, so we're not going to spend $20,000 in studies before I can even present it. That's all it was just to give them the flexibility to say, yes, we'll listen to you. That's all it is.
Thank
We
you.
haven't changed anything yet. We haven't approved anything yet. We haven't done anything yet on that. Nothing's been set in stone. All we said was, yeah, we're pretty happy with this, or no, we're not happy with that. We gave them feedback prematurely because they hadn't really formally presented an application, but we gave them some feedback and said, if you can work within these parameters we've given you, come forward. But if you can't, scrap it and move on. And we haven't heard from them officially yet.
we're on a slope.
Thank you. Any other planning commissioner comments? All right, moving on. Item number 5, entrance corridor overlay application, 1119 South Church Street, Town Bank. Ms. Clary, you have a staff report on this?
Yes, thank you. The applicant wishes to erect a double-sided detached internally lit monument sign. It's about 6 foot wide by 9 foot tall, 18 inches wide, and about 20.5 square feet. The proposed sign will feature 2 13-inch wide columns painted in warm gray, approximately 3 square foot gold Town Bank logo, a 15-inch tall crest resting on a navy blue background with 2 1.5-inch gold-colored borders at the top and bottom of the sign. It will be placed at least 10 feet from the right-of-way line at the corner of South Church Street and Battery Park Road. They also have provided a landscaping plan that is in conformance with Article 10, Section E6. It will feature shrubs, annuals, daylilies selected by the sign owner. Town staff do recommend that approval would be under the following condition: that the applicant submits a landscaping bond in the amount of $3,008.40, which is 120% of the total landscaping costs, along with a sign application and fee payment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there an applicant here to speak on this item? Come on up, state your name. State your name and address for the record, please, sir.
James Miller with Sign Media, 2109 Mingy Drive, Hampton, Virginia, 23661.
Anything you want to add to the staff report?
No, this was just a resubmittal without the denied sign from the last round. We
Without the
pulled-
digital element?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's
any
any
questions?
questions, I'll be glad to answer anything.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Just one. You stated that you would have, the sign would be 10 feet away from the right-of-way. Is that way I understood?
Yes, sir.
Is that closer or farther than the sign that's presently there?
It's right about the same,
About the same?
about the same.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Why the need, is the sign not meeting, that's there now, not meeting your needs?
It just doesn't conform to the standard of sign that we that we put up for Town Bank.
For the town bank style book?
Absolutely.
Okay. Other questions for the applicant?
Actually, from the pictures and stuff, it's a more attractive sign than what's up there now.
Do I have a
I
motion?
make the motion that we approve it as presented with the staff recommendations.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Next item is our first public hearing, item number 6, special use permit, site plan amendment, PC waiver, 18420 Battery Park Road, Smithfield Church of Christ. Ms. Clary, do we have staff?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval for a special use permit in accordance with the Smithfield zoning ordinance Article 3AC 36 for a waiver of parking and loading requirements. This is for approximately 12 additional gravel parking spaces. It's approximately 4,480 square feet of gravel that will be located on the east side of the church and provide additional parking for the attendees. As part of the same project, the applicants have stated that they will pave the 2 entrances to the church off of Battery Park Road. This is because Article 8B6A requires off-street parking to be constructed of an all-weather stabilized dust-free surface. The applicants must acquire a special use permit. They're also seeking a planning commission waiver. This would be to allow gravel parking spaces in the entrance corridor overlay. The property does already feature gravel parking in the areas in the front of the church. Positives, this application will allow the applicants to provide additional parking spaces. Negatives, it is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Staff do suggest that any recommendation is contingent on the applicants abiding by any comments received from Isle of Wight County Stormwater. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Clary. Is there anyone on behalf of the applicant to speak this evening?
James Jordan, Seven Kings.
Do you have anything to add, Mr. Jordan?
Nope, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? We need to open the public hearing. Anyone signed up for the public hearing? We're going to close the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, any questions for the applicant? Going once. Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make one statement. I am not a member of this church, but I've attended it on and off for the past 25 years. That east side of that property can become a swamp if there's heavy rain. Many times have I walked across there and my wife with heels on and you sink down in it. This, to me, is a good thing to add 12. For one thing, the church is growing, which is a good thing. But another thing, it gives you a good walking surface where one does not exist right now.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Other questions or comments?
Just a comment. I'm not necessarily opposed to this. We're making more and more exceptions for gravel parking lots in our historic overlay district, and other areas in town. And paving's expensive, and curbing is expensive, and site work is ridiculously expensive. You have to do all those things when you put in paving, to the point that it's cost prohibitive more and more often these days. So I'm kind of torn here. I'm not apt to oppose this, but, you know, what do we want to do here as a planning commission? I'm talking about maybe a little bit bigger picture than just this application. You know, we've approved this on several occasions, and eventually we're going to have more gravel parking lots than we are going to have paved. So I just think we need to look at what our thought process is on this. Our ordinances say that it's required, but it can be done by a special use permit. Special use permit, again, is a wonderful tool because we can put certain applications on it and restrictions on it if we wish. I just think we need to be aware of what we're doing. I can think of 2 other instances off the top of my head where we've approved these. And again, not necessarily opposed. I hate to I would like to say it should be paved. I'd like to be the guy that says this has to be a paved parking lot, but I can't. I can't do that because I can't do that to the church and I can't do it to the businesses. So do we even have that in our ordinance? I mean, does it make sense for our ordinance even to read that? I don't know. But I don't really have a point other than that.
No, I'm kind of in the same place you are, because we have approved some, it has gotten cost prohibitive, you know, I used to own a business with my husband that had parking issues and paving issues all the time, and it's a maintenance nightmare, so I get it, it's very expensive. And I think for a new small business or a church or a nonprofit or something like that, it's a real barrier to getting started, so, no, I'm in the same place you are.
On the other hand, the east side of the parking lot is not even visible from the street per se. The entire front of the church already has gravel parking and has had
Yeah.
for many, many,
Yeah.
many years.
I don't think anybody's against it.
Right. My thought is if it's a new parking lot, that's when we have more desire, I guess, to make sure that things are paved. But when it is a business or a church in this case, that's been there a long time, and the whole time they've had gravel, and what they want to do is add more parking spaces, I don't see an issue with that. But if it were a whole new parking lot, they never had one before, and now they need to put one in, then I think we have more room to stand.
Do you all want to take this up as a discussion item at a future meeting?
Not this application.
No, just the gravel parking
Right.
issue.
And I don't think we have to.
I would say as a construction worker and being in the business, when you asphalt something, that's a harder surface, you're running off, you have more runoff. Where gravel is a runoff, and it is hard, but it is getting through the ground over time. So when you guys consider this going forward, you know, keeping the ground water and paving it, it's better to go with the gravel for your businesses. I mean, I understand it's not great for dust and breathing abilities, but as a construction worker and seeing everything getting the old song, build a parking lot, pave a parking lot, I mean, gravel is probably the best. Maybe a drainage field underneath the carver, something that would add to the water table. So that's
Thank you,
all I
Mr.
had to
Gordon.
say.
Any
So
other?
I don't think we need a workshop. I think, as Commissioner Smith, Randy, Commissioner Pack alluded to, businesses that's already established and they already have gravel parking lots, I wouldn't want to make an example out of them demanding that new parking lot, additional parking be paved. But for a new business, new construction, I don't see any reason why we would grant a waiver?
We already have.
Issued for new business? For new construction?
One, well,
Sort of.
sort of, yeah.
When we did Ian Brim's place, the coffee place up on South Church Street, and he wanted to put some gravel parking around there, we allowed for it. And it was not a new build, but it was a new business.
They were expanding.
Exactly,
the parking.
I'm talking about a new
Yeah.
Well,
structure.
he had some
new
paved
building.
parking there.
And he had paper, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we need to just look at ourselves and look at and see what makes sense. I mean, in Mr. Brim's situation, I think we all felt that the cost of paving was prohibitive for his business. And that's kind of a loose term
Yeah.
to look at. I mean, it's, to steal your term, Mr. Brown, it's a little bit of a slippery slope there.
Yes, but in that case, it was an existing structure.
Yeah,
It was just a question of parking.
I don't believe we've approved anything with a new build with gravel parking.
And that's where that's what I'm thinking. So I think it's there, the ordinance is there, and we can work with that as it is.
Okay, other comments or questions for the applicant?
For this application, I have two. One is with the concrete paved areas coming off of Battery Park Road across the bike path, why are they not the same? One's paved one way, one's paved another way. Why are they not paved the same?
Would that be a question for,
I'm not sure, but
they're not the same?
they don't look the same according to this drawing, they don't look the same.
I
Looks like
think
one
the
has gravel, one
entrances-
has a concrete apron, is that what you're getting at?
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna make a concrete apron come across and come into the parking lot, why would they not be the same?
Yes. Would the applicant come back? And clarify? I thought it was just a illustration of something below the surface.
Yep, that is gonna be paved.
The driveways are not the same material?
So, on,
We had requested that the applicant pave the
Right.
2 entrances off Battery
Correct.
Park Road. This is in order to help try to keep the gravel that's currently existing off of Battery Park Road. The applicants did agree that they would pave those.
Okay.
I misunderstood what your question was. They are gonna get paved. The aprons will get paved.
I
The
get
same
that, but-
material?
No,
No.
no, pave is different than crush and run.
So what's this entrance? What's this entrance?
That's the entrance to the existing parking lot.
Right here.
already.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how come this one doesn't match this one?
To clarify that, because they're disturbing over 2,500 square feet of land, they're required to do erosion and sediment control measures. So that is their construction entrance. So that'd be a temporary or crush and run entrance that'll be removed and then paved over.
So do we have a picture of the final product?
That is
Should
on
be
It
on
appears to
page
be-
16.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find. Yeah, page 16 shows.
Okay. All right.
Thank
So
you, Mr.
my comment then would be, is why wouldn't that pavement extend a little bit past the bike path? The bike path is what's gonna take all the wear and tear of a car transitioning from gravel to pavement. It seems like you should pave in there 3, 4, 5, 6 feet, whatever some magic number is, that gets torn up and not the bike path.
Will the city be paying for the bike path pavement?
We've already done that,
It is paved.
and it's paved already.
Okay.
So my point is when you go from gravel to pavement, you're gonna tear the edge of the pavement up.
Dr. Pope, if you look at Google Maps and zoom in on it, it does extend
Past it.
past it, 2 to 3 feet, something like that.
And I'm fine with that, as long as we're doing that on both entrances, they look symmetric, they look even, and we're protecting the bike path, because we don't need the bike path to get torn up, and then we're pointing fingers as who's fixing what.
Understood.
And then my second comment is the entrance and exit of this new parking lot. It looks like you have 2 handicap spaces in there. And the way that radius is drawn, our car's gonna be able to get around those handicap spaces without any trouble. Is there enough distance in there? It looks like you're just sort of butted this thing in, threw it in there, and I just want to make sure you're going to be able to get around these handicap spaces and this handicap pad as you're entering and exiting this little parking area. It just looks a little tight to me. You see what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So logistically, how is this thing flowing?
Yes, yeah. It won't be impeded, correct. I mean, we can widen it if you choose to, but, I mean, there's not a problem getting in and out of there. What's the dimension on it? Did Warren put a measurement on there? I'd have to ask him to put a measurement for you.
Maybe 24 feet, but I can't tell if that's a
Yeah, so
measurement or if that's an elevation.
That's more than enough. 12,
I think it's an elevation. I think it's an elevation. I don't think it's a measurement. I can't tell. It looks like, they look like they're elevation, topography elevations. I just want to make sure there's enough room in there that I guess staff has figured out, yes, there's enough room, but it looks tight to me. Especially if you got two cars coming head on. But
Last question, is there any containment or edge containment for
Silk fence?
around the side, just silt fence? No, I mean, not during construction, I mean afterwards to
Long
contain the
term.
gravel, to keep the gravel from continually spreading and making a bigger and bigger and bigger parking lot.
No, we didn't propose anything in there for that.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
yeah, but you're not driving over here.
Do I have a motion?
I would propose that we approve this contingent on the staff recommendations as presented.
Second?
Motion and a second. Mr. Clary, would you call for the question, please?
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Pack,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes,
Vice Chair Davison,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Chairman Hillegas, before we move on, I would like to have a discussion item about this parking lot issue in the future.
I agree.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. Next item, item number 7. Again, it's another public hearing, special use permit, 607 South Church Street, Crofton Construction. This is a public hearing. We need to open the public hearing. Is there anyone sign up to comment? Okay. Anyone have burning urge to comment now? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. All right, Ms. Claire, you have a staff report on this one?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval to utilize multiple existing shipping containers as accessory structures. Due to recent changes in our zoning ordinance, a special use permit is required for the shipping containers located in the HRC district. One of the shipping containers is currently being used as VDOT's office. This is for the Cypress Creek Bridge project. The additional shipping containers will be used to store materials and equipment for this project. The positives, the application is for the temporary use of the shipping containers for the VDOT Bridge project. It is not a by right use and does require an SUP. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone on behalf of the applicant to speak to this item this evening? Okay, I guess that's a no. Planning Commissioner, comments or questions?
It's temporary.
I was going to say the same thing.
if we
It's
limit the
temporary.
duration of use to 18 months, will they have the bridge done in 18 months?
Can we do it for
that's
12
not how that
then?
works.
Can we do it for 12?
That
6.
is not how that works. They would just come back for an extension, yes. Nice thought, though. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Call for question, please.
Just for clarification, this is a favorable recommendation to town council.
Correct.
Yes,
you.
it is.
Mr. Pack,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davison,
Yes,
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Can I, just one question?
You can do it.
Chairman, please.
Oh,
We have the same issue going on at Tractor Supply that I reached out to Ms. Clary about this week. It looks like they're probably getting ready to start the expansion we approved a year or so ago. So there's several containers sitting out there. When we wrote our shipping container ordinance, we didn't include for temporary use for construction. It may be easier for us to say that, you know, these are administratively approved when you're doing short-term construction projects, and so that Ms. Clary doesn't have to bring that to us. I don't know how we would do that at the planning commission, but if I think that's something we ought to at least consider. I mean, we wrote a really strong ordinance, but when we run into a couple of instances where it happens, maybe we need to make a minor change so we can do administrative approval on it.
okay. We'll add that to the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Okay, next item is item number 8, entrance corridor overlay application 1005 South Church Street. This is a sign situation that we all know and love, signs. Ms. Claire, you have a staff report.
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking approval to reface an approximately 84.5 square foot existing detached sign for the new business at 1005 South Church Street, which was formerly the 7-Eleven. The sign will feature a muted blue color matching the existing wall sign. The applicants have stated they will be in compliance with the internal illumination requirements of the SCO. Town staff recommend that approval would be contingent on the applicant obtaining a sign permit and required fee payment. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? State your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Ali Salah, 1005 South Church.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Nope, I'm here to answer any questions.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions or comments for the applicant?
So as we discussed on the Smithfield electric sign, this sign is white background, and I think our ordinance is that it has to be opaque. So is this sign opaque on the white background and the blue letters are going to shine through when it's internally
That is
lit?
correct. We sent the zoning ordinance statement of requirements to the sign company, and they confirmed that they would be in conformance with those requirements.
Great, thank you.
Maybe not a question for the applicant, but a comment on the application. As we all know from previously when we did the building, I am not super in favor of all of the kratom, vape, hookah, cigar, and grocery on the sign. I don't mind the business logo and everything on it, but not super excited about the advertisement of all of that on the sign.
I agree with you.
I have a question. What is Crestcon?
You
I don't
asking?
even know what it is.
You asking the applicant?
What's the question?
He asked what is kratom.
It's a tea extract. It's a natural tea extract. That's all it is tea leaves crushed.
And what do you do with it?
It gives you natural energy. It helps you with sleep, nausea.
But is it you prepare it as a tea, or do you?
You could consume it with pretty much with liquid or without. It comes in pills and it comes in powder. Yeah.
I am not an expert on this, but I believe it is approximating the opiate family of medicinals.
I see.
And he's a doctor, so.
I'll have to look it up. I'm sure somebody will correct me next month.
There's another substance that I've seen on some of these vape shops, and actually it's right here. What is hookah?
Hookah is the actual, so what it is a tobacco being burnt on top of a device. It's a traditional setting originated from Mideastern countries.
Is hookah actually a tobacco?
No, hookah would be the device.
It's
Yeah.
a
A
water.
device?
It's-
That's
Yeah.
a device.
Pipe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's.
No, it's different from a water pipe.
It's not a water pipe?
No,
No
Okay.
water?
no. It has water in it, but it's not,
So
I
it's
wouldn't say it's
so-
considered as a water
Oh,
pipe.
So it's a pipe and it has water.
Yeah, but it's glass.
Yes, it does.
It's what?
The water pipe would be glass. Those are not glass. So I wouldn't consider it as a water pipe.
Okay. I'm
It's
just a little
similar to
slow.
a water pipe.
Yeah, similar, but not the same.
Well, since we're asking questions, what groceries are you selling?
Anything you can think of. We have a 12-door walk-in cooler that used to be there, so we refurbished it, filled it all up with drinks, no alcohol. We have the middle section of the floor full of pretty much anything grocery.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I have a question, and it's not particular for the applicant, perhaps for you, Director Clary. Driving up and down South Church Street all these years, the 7-Eleven sign, was it operable prior to 7-Eleven closing?
Yes.
Yes,
It was.
yes.
But now, it's not in disrepair, I take it.
It's just got a black.
It's just blank.
It's covered.
It's just covered.
Yeah,
It
It's
still
covered with
works,
the-
it's not in
with the-
They're
When
disrepair.
7-Eleven left.
Facing the existing
Yeah.
sign.
Okay, but I know we're gonna discuss this later, Article 10, the sign ordinances. But driving up and down Church Street, in the ordinance, I noticed that signs should be pretty much consistent along the whole route. Now, I look at the sign at Truist on the far end, the Burger King, those are tall. Other Hardee's, Smithfield Square, they're tall. But other than those, driving down South Church Street from one end to the other, there's no other sign as tall as this one. And the ordinance suggests that all signs somewhat appear similar.
This sign is grandfathered, Mr. Brown.
And
They're
that's
just
what I was
they're just
afraid of.
refacing
That's what I was
the
afraid of.
existing sign.
But this sign is gonna be bigger than any sign along South Church Street. And what it advertises, I don't think it's favored very much.
Well, if they were doing a new sign, your comments would be warranted, but they're not. The sign is grandfathered, so they're
Yes.
just refacing the existing sign.
Yeah, but this sign would be the beacon of South Church Street.
It was when it was 7-Eleven.
So there are landscaping requirements around the detached signs. And one of the things that it talks about when refacing is you can reface an existing sign provided it meets the existing landscaping and something else rules. So this one is not currently landscaped, so there's no landscaping plan.
That is correct. It is not possible. There's just not an area there. Normally, when they are putting up detached signs, for example, with the town bank, they're putting it up in a grassy area that they can provide light landscaping. Because of the non-conforming of the sign and the proposed location, they just don't have the area to provide any sort of landscaping.
So that's what I was gonna say, is there any landscaping that is going to be adjusted around the sign to try to create some to do anything, or
It has,
since it's
paved.
internally lit? Was that
It's paved,
currently right up to the edge of it, so?
yes.
Yeah.
There's not a lot they can do.
Unless you extended the existing grassy area. But
Other comments or questions? Do I have a motion? One way or the other?
For a motion, I agree with Dr. Pope. I'm fine with the Planet Tobacco Mart, but I'm not in favor of the what is being sold below it listed, the listing of that. And we had an issue with that on the sign on the building, correct?
correct.
Right. So I would move that we approve the Planet Tobacco Mart sign, but disallow for the 5 items for sale below it.
I'll second that.
And their lettering can be proportionally spaced across the square footage of the sign.
Yes.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Clary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes. as amended by Mr. Pack.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Pack,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Since we have no way out, reluctantly, yes.
Vice Chair Davidson,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. All right, item number 9, site plan amendment application, 100 Main Street. Do we have a staff report, Claire?
Yes, thank you. The applicant is seeking a site plan amendment. This is to create a mechanical area adjacent to the rear of the building for a proposed walk-in cooler. The area is approximately 109 square feet and will be covered and screened. This would be with stained wood fencing. The applicant is installing various planters and greenery throughout the project and plans to feature outdoor garden seating for the proposed counter service restaurant. Staff do recommend that approval is contingent on the applicant obtaining approval from the BHAR next week. Thank you.
Is the applicant here to speak on behalf?
Yes, ma'am.
State your name and address for the record, please.
David Goodman, 8602 Kings Landing Lane, Smithfield.
And Michelle Goodman, 8602 Kings Landing Lane, Smithfield.
Great. Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Can answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Great. Planning Commission, questions for the applicant?
I think they've done a great job with what they've got and being able to hide and
Yeah,
work
Yeah.
with the site.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
you have to have spots to put mechanicals, and you can't put it on a roof at this location.
No,
I think this is the best
yeah.
fit for this building and how they're doing it.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Do I have a motion?
Move we approve as presented
Second?
with staff recommendation.
With staff recommendation?
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Second.
Mr. Yoko,
Yes.
Dr. Pope,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Pack,
Yes.
Mr. Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davidson,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Hillegas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're very excited. Good luck to you. Item number 10 is our discussion item on Article 10 signage. Ms. Clary, what say you
Yes,
about this?
thank you. So Article 10, Section L2, that does address the entrance corridor overlay signage, and it does state the administrator may permit any sign permitted in any residential district and any sign not exceeding 150 square feet in area in a business or industrial district. If, in the opinion of the administrator, such sign will not impair the character of the district, the Planning Commission shall approve signs exceeding 150 square feet in area as guided by the Smithfield entrance corridor design guidelines. Staff just wanted to verify and make sure as we're going through and updating our Article 10 that that was still the desire of the Planning Commission to leave staff administrative approval for all signs less than 150 square feet. And then staff would then have the option of bringing it if they so desired. Again, just pointing out, that would be our Planet Tobacco and Vape sign, could be administratively approved at staff level as the ordinance is written.
Will this have any special consideration for the historic district? I know we've had that question come up about things in the historic district BR kind of wanted to look at. I think we've made a firm decision.
I believe the VHAR had wanted to see all signs that exceeded 5 square feet.
Okay, that's right. Okay, thank you.
So the Planet Tobacco is a great example, and it's perfect timing. Obviously, Ms. Clary could have approved this and brought it to our attention. But what if she hadn't? What is our recourse at that point? Is there any?
I think it ends up being like everything else, it's complaint driven. You know, their neighbors would.
But what's our recourse? I mean,
Once it's approved enough, you can't take it down.
yeah.
Why is it such a big deal to approve the signs as they come through it?
I didn't say it was.
I know, but I'm saying, why would you not want to do that?
Well, our ordinance, that's what Ms. Clary's asking. She said our ordinance says she can approve them up to 150 square feet. And if we want them to come in front of us, we would change that to 0 or 5 or whatever. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Why would you not, I mean, Tammy's got good judgment, but why would, why would you
Staff is happy to bring any application before the planning commission.
Her shoulders or something like that, because if she approves it and then you don't like it, you're gonna jump all over her and she's, that's just.
Right.
Why put that burden on her? Because it's a subjective thing. It's not objective at all. And so her subjective judgment and yours may not be on the same plane.
Yep, agreed.
And I think if this had been a new sign tonight, we would have had much different requirements for it. So would your pleasure be to be consistent with what Bihar requested?
I don't know that we find many 5-foot, square-foot signs in the entrance corridor. Staff is happy to bring all signs. We don't really get that many that frequently. We'd be happy to bring
Just
all,
have a lot.
all signs
recently.
within the entrance corridor overlay to Planning Commission for their review and decision.
Where in the regulations would we be able to interject that for new businesses, that their signs need to conform to our new signage, to the current signage ordinance? This one being a perfect example. It's tall, it's big, it's gaudy.
You're talking
But
about new business, not new build.
Correct, a new business.
Okay.
So if this Planet Tobacco goes out of business and somebody else comes in with a dress shop, they can't, how can we word it so that they can't use that same sign, that they have to put up a new sign that would then conform, it would have landscaping and would be more pleasing? Because if you think about it, once you pass Q Daddy's and you get down to Wise Tire, it looks like the armpit of Newport News. But there's no way to change that at this time. But if we have the opportunity to change it, why wouldn't we?
Other thoughts? What's your pleasure?
We would need to rewrite our non-conforming sign section.
Well, I think everybody would like to see that done. That's all. I'm shaking heads on that.
That's kind of what I was trying to get to with even the way it says today about non-conforming. It does say
Right.
if it's non-conforming, it should still be
I
landscaped.
mean,
And
you
you say it's
can
currently
change your
paved,
ordinance.
but-
We, you know, do you remember Hardee's?
Yeah, it used to be a
Yeah, I
mile
do.
high.
The sign used to be a mile high.
It did.
And they resisted and resisted and resisted, and they finally got to the point where they took something in our ordinance triggered that they had to reduce the sign, the height. And, you know, you can I mean, right now it's grandfathered, and they're just refacing the existing sign.
Right.
And, I mean, your decision tonight was not unreasonable, because before it was 7-Eleven, and it didn't say Slurpees, you know.
Right.
It didn't say anything like that.
Right.
It just said
Slurpee,
7-Eleven.
hot dog, and smokes,
Didn't
yeah.
say, no, it didn't say anything. And so what you did was entirely consistent with what was there before.
Yeah.
What goes back to my discussion is if you're gonna start redeveloping all of Church Street, so you're across the street from the vape shop, and you got all those houses, at what point do you trigger a remodel over there that then has to bring them in complete compliance for the building structure, parking lots, et cetera, for a thing? How much remodel are you gonna allow before it triggers that you have to comply with the whole ECO guideline? Because as you're looking at businesses coming in, if they paint it, they tear off the siding, they put an addition, when do you trigger that they have to come into full
He's
compliance?
talking about, like on the other, in the RO district across the street.
You got a house over there, but I want to turn it into a doctor's office.
Well,
When are you going to require me to fully comply with the whole ECO guideline, or when you're going to allow, say, we're grandfathered to do whatever?
way back when the RO was dreamed up, that was the ultimate goal, was to do exactly what you're talking about. The big debate was, how do you get there? Because it's so, it's a transition zone. It's interspersed with commercial and residential uses, and it was designed to be that way because it had naturally evolved that way anyhow, and so we just codified it to come up with a residential office district. But the goal that most of the commissioners had at that time was to do exactly what you're talking about. It's just, there's never been an agreement about when you do it, because it's, you have to take a hard line. And you just can't say, well, for example, we had, the bagel shop. Remember that, when you added parking, additional gravel parking? Well, the hard line would have been, no, you have to pave that little spot. And therein lies the rub, it's one of those things, you try to be business friendly.
Well, we do want to be business friendly.
And so, well, some people would argue that, okay, if you take the really hard line, you make it impossible for them to do anything, and you just said no to small business. So therein lies your dilemma.
So, Dr. Pope, possibly to give you a solution, if a commercial building that's built inside the RPA or really close to the water, which is something I'm familiar with, is damaged by more than 50% and has to be replaced, 50% is a trigger at that point. That could potentially apply to what you're discussing.
We just never have resolved that. We've discussed
We
it,
haven't.
but we've never taken it much beyond discussion. But that goes back to the sign. When are you gonna make them tear down the sign and say, hey, you're not gonna have a 35-foot high sign there, you're gonna be at under 20 feet to be in compliance with our guidelines and all that? When do you start triggering to say, hey, we don't want this 7-Eleven sign here, we don't want the Supreme sign, and if they're gonna make a major reduction or they sell it and somebody remodels it, redoes it? When does that trigger to make the new sign?
Well, I think Ms. Smith was on point with what she says, that when the business changes hands, that to come back, you have to be in compliance, at least with signage, and landscaping. We put these processes in place in our community because we want our community to look better. We want the appearance to be better. That's what our job is. And, every time we have a soft spot for a local business owner, which is pretty easy to do, we can make exceptions. But if we make it so that we trigger and give a process so that they understand what they're getting into, that, I think that's what we need to do. I'd very much like to not have that 7-Eleven sign approved this evening. But then again, I didn't want a vape shop there to start off with.
Well, and that was another question, is how many of those, we stopped a gun shop and a gold selling business on
And
Main
vape.
Street.
And vape.
And a vape stop?
Yep.
Okay. How many vape businesses can the town bear before we say?
It's under special use permit
Yeah.
now for all future businesses. They slid in before we changed the ordinance.
I
Yes.
see. Okay.
They actually triggered the changed ordinance, and it looks like perhaps they're triggering another change in ordinance.
Okay.
Yes, is it 3 or 4 vape
4.
shops? Is 4 now in town?
Well, we've got one right outside of town that used to be the cigarette shop. I think it still is, but they sell all kinds of stuff. And then where Wells Fargo is and where
We have
Kroger
4
is.
within the town limits.
Pardon me?
4 within the town limits of Smithfield.
Near the ABC store in Food Line, South Church.
Oh, that
There's
one. Okay, I
there.
was not thinking of that one. Yeah.
There's 2 in Cypress Run? Is there 2 in there? That's what it is?
No, there's one in Cypress Run and the other one's in the Kroger shopping
Yeah,
center.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then Food Line and then this one.
But a question to Director Clary. The sign that was just approved for the vape shop, and the condition was that listing of material or goods, whatever they're doing there, was approved to have those removed. Would he have to come back to you to show you?
We would have an illustration before we issued the sign permit.
Oh, okay. He would have to show you without those items listed? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Another question, is this sign ordinance that we're looking at tonight the same sign ordinance as the nitty-gritty stuff, like the Hughes Agency having 2 businesses, the bagel business and his, and having a sign out front, which is what we're talking about, but what about the signage on the building? He's got a door for his business to say enter here, and the bagel place says enter here. So there's some regulations on how many signs you can put on the building as well, is there not?
Yeah, I think so.
There it is.
Is that under this, or is that a separate sign ordinance?
No, it would be under Article 10.
Because
They're on a corner though, right? So
well,
does that allow them to
the reason
have-
I ask that is because our business, I have the medical business, it goes in the front door of the traditional building, and then Shannon's created her second business. But I couldn't put a sign out there. It has to be a directional sign pointing people to it, which it's not really a sign, but why does she need a directional sign and not her own sign? It's her own business. She pays her own taxes and her own stuff to the town. Well, why can't she have her own sign for her own business, even though it's in the same building, the same way as bagels and all of that, without it being directional? So when you have a business with multi-entrances at multi-thing, Mr. Riddick's office, got his office, somebody else in the back, how are you putting the signs up, pointing people? Maybe it's important to put a direction on if you got two doors side by side, but our entrances are completely separate. So I'm asking this a little bit out of personal reasons, but it's still gonna come up with a business that's gonna have multiple businesses within the
You
building.
should be able to have two signs.
I had to have a directional sign. So I'm not criticizing, I don't care, we've done it, we've got it approved, all that, but I'm looking for the future of if she needs another sign, because people have no clue where to go find her business on our property. They walk all around, come in different entrances,
That
go
doesn't
all through
make-
all doors,
well,
and
you
I really
should-
need to put a sign up that says private entrance and her business because of the way the door situation is.
You don't have a sign, like a road sign, you don't have.
I do, I have a,
Yeah, they have
I
one
do.
sign.
And on it says Family Medical Care Smithfield Aesthetics. That's been approved on that little brick sign out front.
So you do have both of them listed there.
Correct. But that just tells them that's what they're, but when they get to my building, they don't know, well, they come to the front door to see us because that's what they've always done. But they don't realize around the back of the building is her entrance separate for her business.
I would think you'd be entitled to another sign.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Clary, but I haven't been. So I just think if we're going to look at this ordinance, how are we going to handle multi-businesses? I understand if you're going to have Smithfield Kroger and you've got the big sign we looked at, what, last month or whatever it was, that said, yeah, these are all the businesses here, but you still have individual signs, and so we still need to allow for that on individual businesses. Danny Hughes being one, ours being one, Mr. Riddick's business being one. You still need to be able to allow for smaller signs of some sort that would allow people to understand, hey, this is where I go for this
Right, but
part
they're
at this
separate
building.
doors.
I agree.
Yeah.
Based on the way I read it, you should be able to put up a wall sign in addition to the road sign.
That's what, I
and
think, if
should
it
be
doesn't
able to-
say so, it should say that every building, every business should be entitled to their own wall sign. But if they share a common entrance, like where the tourism is,
Yeah.
they have, 5 or 6 people down that hall, but they have just one sign that has like a menu of all the different businesses.
And so does
This is
the business
319
next
A,
door.
B, and C. The art center's A,
Right.
tourism is B,
Right, but
and
there's
then that
nothing on
one
the-
hallway, you're
nothing on
right.
the front,
But then
right?
But there's several businesses there.
yes, there are.
But they're using one entrance. We're using two separate entrances.
Well, but the building there at 319 has separate entrances, and the hall's rental units at the very end, they have a list, I think, on the side of the building
They do.
of everyone who's down that corridor, that
They
it's separate.
I don't-
So I think is the consensus that if it isn't already in here, it should be in here that individual buildings that have more than one tenant that use separate entrances should be permitted to have separate wall signs. Does that make sense, and is that something that you
Makes
Makes
Does
it,
that capture the consensus?
makes
of
perfect sense.
I
what
think
we're-
it should, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5, or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you go to K for B, it discusses the 2 or more businesses per building. It's on page 55 of the PDF, and it discusses the combined signage for the single detached sign that's advertising the businesses. We also have E2, which is the general requirements for signs, and that is on page 42 and 43 of the PDF. And that addresses the number of signs, one sign of each permitted type for each street frontage for each permitted use on the premises. It would be flat, detached roof, and projecting signs.
Okay. So do we want Ms. Clary to take a stab at making the changes as discussed this evening and bring it back next time?
One other comment on while you're updating, if we could update wattage on lighting to lumens on lighting, because 150 watts of LEDs will
It will blind
knock you out.
It will blind you.
Ms. Clary, doesn't it say, is this what you just said, section 3? Each individual tenant shall be permitted one flat sign? Doesn't that cover it?
What page, I'm sorry, what page are you on of the PDF?
It's 56 in the PDF.
This number 2.
Number 2.
Well, one, number 3.
One flat sign.
Oh, that has to do with shopping centers. Never mind, we're back. That's under F. But up at the top, though, it did say that a group, under B, it says a group of 2 or more contiguous stores or businesses per building shall combine permitted detached signs to provide for a single detached sign. That would be Dr. Pope's example. His 2 businesses share one
Right.
detached sign. But why would we not add similar language under, that would permit what's specified in section F3, that each individual tenant shall be permitted one flat sign?
No, he said he's permitted one of each type, which would be a
Where does it
flat,
say
a
that?
window, or a projecting. And like I said, for your application, coming out of her door,
If that's the case,
a
then
projecting sign over the door would, sounds like it would be another
Right.
permitted sign that would work.
The only thing I can think of, and again, I was not part of your application for a sign, so I'm not sure, unless it was considered, the permitted use is the same, and so therefore it's not considered a second permitted use, it's just the original use, which is why you would only be allowed one sign.
well, it's separate business.
It is.
Yeah, I get it. It's still under medical is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not a separate, but she has her separate separate business license, taxes, everything's completely separate, even though it's still medical. It's all a separate business within the building. So what I was told is she ordered a sign without approval, so I did it after the fact. But then they came back and said it has to be a directional sign, it can't be a regular sign, so we had to modify the sign to make it directional. And then that brought me into compliance. But I'm just trying to figure out,
What?
they don't
That'd be so
like the
difficult.
modification and they don't like the fake arrow that was on it or was on it that says go here. I mean, it's, anyways, not so much for us because I'm going to make an application to add on to our building, which will come up as a separate issue here somewhere in the near future. But it's an issue for other businesses that are going to ultimately run.
Yeah.
Well, that's just sort of a matter of fairness. You shouldn't be penalized. If you share a space, you shouldn't be, one business shouldn't have the benefit of having a sign, and the other one that comes, Johnny come lately, doesn't get a sign. That doesn't seem to make any sense.
And it doesn't have to be a big sign as far as I'm concerned, 4 square feet, 5 square feet. I mean, by the time you do, it's probably 5 square feet-ish, you know, so you gotta, whatever the magic number is, to say those can be approved administratively versus street signs or whatever.
Well, just so you know, for the last 40 years, this has been the most contentious part of the zoning ordinance. It evolves and shifts and. it's
And it
very-
is in every locality
yeah,
in
it's
Tidewater.
extremely difficult.
Yeah. So will we hear this item again with some changes for discussion?
Yes, staff is going to rewrite the non-conforming section and also rewrite it so that all signs would come before Planning Commission for ECO review. We are also going to look at lumens. There are additional items that we're working on for this draft. And then maybe even try to clarify some language in E2 with the second signage for second businesses.
And we address the political signs, right?
We're still working on that, yes.
So
That is part of the larger
that's part of
package.
the- yeah.
Yes.
Like, can't put them out more than 2 weeks before the election.
I bet you can't put them out at all. No, no.
Okay, everybody good with moving on?
Absolutely.
Mr. Riddick, we've missed you. We have so many minutes to
I know.
approve.
I know, where you been?
First is the,
I've read them all.
really?
Yes.
Can we approve them en masse?
Well, no, I would recommend approval of the November minutes.
I'm sorry.
I would recommend the approval of the November minutes as presented.
Okay.
Somebody needs to make a motion.
I would
Need a
make a
mo-
motion that we approve it.
And then somebody needs to second that.
Second it.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I would recommend adoption of the December minutes.
So
I
moved.
make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
And as I was not present, I read the January minutes and they made sense to me. I did not see any errors, but if there's anything that anyone else saw, I would be happy for their comments. But otherwise, I would recommend approval of the January minutes.
Anyone have any corrections to the January 9th minutes?
I recommend approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Please stick around for a group photo.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, talent, and attendance this evening.
I didn't know.
Kind of awful.